Alrighty, hello everyone. Welcome to Duke Students Live Chat Q&A with current Duke students. Hopefully this is kind of broadcasting to all of you right now. My name is Jason, I'm a senior, and I'm going to be kind of moderating today. Just before we get started, kind of how this works, if you have any questions for us or things you want us to talk about, just put them down below under our YouTube video here, and we'll try to get to all of your questions, or as many as we can, and give you our kind of real student perspective on all of it. But first, I think you should probably get to know who you're talking to today, and then maybe target your questions to the people who are here. So like I said, my name is Jason. I'm a senior from a small town called Clinton, New Jersey, majoring in psychology with minors in computer science and Spanish. So I do a lot of things. I'm also pre-law. Just a quick rundown of stuff I do on campus. I spent a year as an RA living in a freshman dorm. I'm involved in Greek life on campus, club sports. I'm wearing my volleyball shirt right now. So I'd be happy to talk to you about any of those things today. Anyone want to go next?
Hi everyone, I'm Emma. I'm a freshman from Buffalo, New York. I'm studying mechanical engineering with a minor either in finance or global health, not sure yet, but figuring that out. On campus, I am a Pratt tour guide and I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for Engineering Student Government. So if you have any questions about Pratt, I am the girl to ask. Otherwise, I'm also in a dance volunteer group on campus. Anyone next?
I'll go. Hi, I'm Vale. I'm a sophomore here at Duke. I'm involved in Duke Engage. I work for them and also did it last year. So if you guys have any questions about Duke Engage, I can answer that. I'm a linguistics and international comparative studies double major with a minor in Korean. And I'm involved with club sports and Greek life as well.
Hello, everyone. I'm Veronica. I'm a sophomore from Las Vegas. I'm majoring in history with a policy journalism and media studies certificate. On campus, I'm a tour guide. I'm on my year sophomore class council, and I studied abroad. I studied abroad last summer, and I'm going abroad this summer and fall. So then you have any questions about abroad at Duke, go for it.
Okay, awesome. So just to kick it off, I know it's a big kind of decision time for a lot of people. So the biggest thing on your minds is like, how to choose between Duke and other schools. So do any of you guys want to talk really quickly about kind of why you chose Duke, or maybe the decision that you had when you were kind of looking at schools, and what really brought you to Duke, and what tipped the scales for you?
Yeah, so I guess for me, from an engineering perspective, it was really important for me to go to a school where the engineers were involved in more than just engineering. And I think that's really true at Duke, is that people are obviously good at whatever they do, but they have so many more interests, which was really important to me. So I really liked that engineers were not only doing engineering, but also involved with arts or sports or volunteering, or really just so many different things, which was really important to me. And also I just really like the more collaborative rather than competitive environment that Duke has, which has really been great my first year and has allowed me to just make new friends and really get adjusted to college.
When I first came here, this is like my dream school since I was in 7th grade. So I really, really wanted to come. And then once I came in for Blue Devil Days and just kind of stepped on campus, I was like, oh, like I feel at home. And that was really important to me. And as I've been here, I also agree with the collaborative rather than competitive environment is a really big thing. And I really love that I can kind of dip my toe in the water of a lot of different majors and minors and just kind of try and see what I want to do without really feeling like I have to choose one thing over another.
Yeah, quickly for me, I came for BSAI, Black Student Alliance Invitational, and like everyone was super nice. The campus is super pretty, and just to be able to go to a school that like is amazing in academics, but also has so many other things that you can do, like going to basketball games, different social events. Durham is super cute. I went to the farmers market this morning with friends, and just having that community around you is super fun and super nice. And like it was a total like culture change from like the West Coast, but Durham's been treating me well so far.
Yeah, at the risk of sounding repetitive, I think mine align really well with most of what you guys said. I think the people is like really the final deciding factor for me. I mean, I will say I was early decision, but in deciding to apply ED, I think Duke was one of the was the place that really convinced me that like smart people could be fun too. Kind of like what Emma was saying. It's a place where people can go to class and take classes seriously and enjoy learning and be very curious in that way, but also can like go to basketball games and like sleep outside in tents for those basketball games and all this kind of stuff. So that was, I think, the really deciding factor for me was how well-rounded the people here were. Class isn't everything for people here. Okay, so kind of first thing to talk about, I think something that people always ask about is kind of classes at Duke. So what would you guys say is your favorite class that you've taken at Duke, or maybe like a memorable class experience that you've had?
I can start. So every freshman, when they come, will have to take a writing 101 class, no matter what AP credit you have. And so if you're like me and you don't end up getting one of your first choice, you'll get in just some random one that might sound interesting or might not, but it ends up working out pretty well. So for me, my writing 101 class was called Disability and Representation. And it was the best. It was one of my favorite classes I've ever taken here so far. And it was really interesting. And it kind of like decided my career path, which I was not expecting in my writing class, considering I'm an engineer. And so that's been one of my favorite classes. Yeah.
For me, so I was in a focus my first semester freshman year is the power of language. And one particular class is called the politics of language, I believe. They were all like of language is kind of confusing. But in that class, I was really able to like realize what it means to be a linguistics major and what it means to actually understand what I'm doing. And our final paper, we got to choose whatever we wanted to do based on identity construction. So I did my paper on the construction of Crooked Hillary, the identity that Donald Trump kind of created for Hillary Clinton through his tweets, his speeches, and his interviews. And it was really interesting to be able to see like the different levels of the way that he like was able to make her synonymous with that identity, despite the fact that like, even if I don't, let's say, believe that she's crooked, or I do believe that she's crooked, I know that Crooked Hillary means Hillary Clinton. So it was fun.
Sorry. Okay. Real quick for I clicked Command F. Real quick for favorite class at Duke. It was probably last spring. I took a class called Genocide and Human Rights with Professor James Chappell, and that's the class that kind of made me want to become a history major. Just like the class was so engaging, and all the readings that we had were just like they were so thought provoking. And also like the professor, he was like this quirky young guy. Like he would always talk to us about like what was happening like in his life, and just having a professor that was just he was so passionate about everything, and having all the students, like every single class, like even though it was 8:30 in the morning on West Campus and I lived on East, like I didn't mind going to it because I knew that each class would be something new. And even though the subject was like dark, and certain classes were really hard to grasp emotionally, it was just an amazing experience for that professor.
Yeah, so just kind of wrapping up this question, one of my favorite classes was my first year seminar that I took in my first year. So it was just like 15 of us freshmen who every Tuesday and Thursday morning would go to this class. It was called Beyond Reason, Empathy, and Identity. It was a psychology seminar, which ultimately became my major. It was a really formative class in me deciding kind of what I wanted to study. But in particular, I think what defined it for me, kind of along what Veronica said, was really the professor. So it was taught by Dr. Robert Thompson, he's been here for like 40 something years. He's been a really just kind of rock in the psychology department. And so he was just this very impressive guy just teaching freshmen every week. And he really took an interest in us and pushed us to be the best that we could be, just right from our first days here at Duke. And one of the funny things I always say about him, so he actually was the dean of Trinity College here at Duke. So he was the dean of our liberal arts college for 8 years. And transitioning into our first question here, which is about writing 101, the Writing 101 program is called the Thompson Writing Program, which is actually named after that professor. So kind of cool that like I, as a freshman, got to take classes with him. But so the first question that we had here is, how do you choose Writing 101 options, or what options are there really to pick from? And just taking that kind of on myself, and you all can talk about your Writing 101 experiences. Like logistically, there are just a bunch of different options that are offered every semester. They're different, or every year at least. There are a few staples that always come around. I know there's always one about Disney, decoding Disney. There's been one about infectious diseases. They could be about garbage. It can be absolutely anything. For those of you who don't know, Writing 101 is like the required class that every single student at Duke has to take in their first year. It's all about writing the disciplines, getting people from very different academic backgrounds, national backgrounds, just up to the same kind of playing field here at Duke for what expectations are being set for you. I personally did a Writing 101 about like the psychology of learning. So again, kind of a psych tie-in that I didn't quite know would end up being so influential on me, but I was able to kind of tie it in with what I really wanted to study. And some people just do it about very fun things. I don't know if any of you had kind of notable Writing 101 experiences other than what I've talked about.
Yeah, I took Coming of Age at Duke with Professor Cheryl Welch, and like she is the nicest woman I think I've ever met on this campus. Like she brought us snacks every class, and like the whole class was just a big case study of our transition to Duke. And like when picking Writing 101s, it's kind of hard like in the summer because you're still not really sure. Like they have descriptions, but like you still aren't quite sure. And especially if you have second registration, you might like not get your first or second pick, but every class has something kind of special in it. And then like during ad drop, which is the first 2 weeks of classes, if you go into a Writing 101 and you realize like it's not for you, you can totally switch out and try another one. But almost everyone at Writing 101, everyone who I've talked to has enjoyed their Writing 101, even if it wasn't something that they would have picked originally.
Yeah, for my Writing 101 experience, I did Latin American history through film, and it was definitely not one of my first choices. I kind of like got second registration window, and but it was really interesting for me. I mean, I'm Hispanic. I really like taking the classes there. I learned about the history of other Hispanic countries that I'm not from, so that was really fun. And the final project was really cool. I got to interview my dad and ask him about his experience leaving Cuba, and it was just like a great learning experience for me and like my culture.
Okay, so kind of moving on to our next question. It's kind of a heavy-hitting one, and so take this as you will, or whoever wants to talk about it. The question was, how hard is it to get into Duke? And I mean, the numbers I would say are pretty scary, but does anyone want to talk about kind of their journey, kind of applying to Duke, or the application process generally?
Okay, I can go. I didn't know Duke was a school at first when I was applying to colleges because people on the West Coast don't really know about Duke. And also, like, my parents hadn't gone to college. So I was the first generation going into college. So, like, the application process, the Common App, it's rough. It's like December of, like, your senior year, or if you're applying at a different time, is going to be a rough time. But just, like, putting yourself, as much as yourself into, I guess, your essays and like the application as possible, because there's so many people applying, which like you kind of just want to be like, you want people to remember you, like the admissions officers to remember this person. So not just someone who did amazing in school, but someone who like they would remember on campus if they saw them. So like, how hard is it to get into Duke? Like the numbers keep going down because more and more people keep applying, but just putting more of you into like everything. And after I applied, like it's the scary period where you're just waiting to see what's going to happen. And whatever does happen, just hopefully you do get into Duke, but if not, there are a bunch of other amazing places.
Yeah, I know. So as a tour guide, I get asked a lot, kind of, what can I do to get into Duke? What's the secret? The one piece of advice for anyone who's not kind of an admitted student is to just really be yourself and put your own story out there, right? Like, what is your narrative? Like, who are you? and to be as honest and forward with that as you can be, right? Don't write the essays you think they want you to write. Write the essays that you have been like working for your your years in high school, middle school, whatever. Just write about who you are. Great. So the next question is about focus. So I guess Vale, could you just talk? I know you did focus, so could you just kind of talk about your experience in focus? How was it? What is the process like? And how was the experience overall?
Yeah, so like I said before, I was in the Power of Language focus. There were 4 professors and 4 different classes that you could choose from. And so I chose two of the 4. And applying was really easy. I remember, I think it was close to Blue Devil days where all the application stuff like that was going on. So just really quick, sent something in, I got in, and you get very close access to your professors your first semester because you're going in from high school, and the classes are a lot bigger. And if you're taking 101 classes, there's 100 people in your class versus in my focus program, there were maybe 8 people to 1 professor in the biggest class. And in the smallest, there was like 4 people in the classroom. So you get really good one-on-one with the professors. And in addition, you have a meal with all of your professors and everybody in the focus once a week. And that's a really great time to just talk casually and not be in an academic setting where you can just explore and cultivate a relationship with people who are like-minded. I really like my focus.
Yeah, so I would say, I didn't do focus, but I lived on East Campus for 2 years, so I actually lived with 2 separate focus clusters throughout my kind of the first half of my Duke journey. And the first one was the humanitarian challenges focus, which I don't know if that even exists anymore, to be honest. And then it was genetics and genomics, so 2 very kind of one policy and one more kind of science pre-med kind of people. The general thing, I mean, I know a lot of people who loved being in focus. I know a lot of people who did it and were like, oh, I actually really don't want to study this anymore. Like I kind of figured this out early, so that's also kind of good for them. My general advice to people for picking a focus cluster, applying to them, is if you find one that really works for you, go for it, right? You're going to really enjoy, diving deep into it early on with people who are in your dorm and getting to know those professors. If it doesn't fit your interests, you're going to have a horrible time because the classes are not easy. But if you're interested in it, it's not going to feel like work. So if there's a focus cluster that works for you, do that. Otherwise, I don't think it's going to be worth it for you overall. Great. So the next question is about graduating early. So how easy is it to graduate early, and do a lot of people do it? I don't know. Do any of you have friends who are working towards graduating early? Okay, Veronica, you want to maybe talk about that or their experiences?
So I have a friend that just graduated early. She graduated a semester early this past December. Then I have another friend who's planning on graduating early. And like if you start planning out your Duke career early and like talking to advisors, talking to your dean and stuff like that, it isn't too bad. They overload, so taking more than like the average 4.5 classes a semester, a couple semesters. But because of students just end up overloading, so sometimes they find out that like they can finish a semester early because they've just been taking so many classes. Not many people decide to do it, but like my friend who just graduated early, she graduated early, took the MCAT right after graduation, so she was stress-free while she was taking the MCAT because she's pre-med and is doing consulting before going into all that. So it's not the most difficult thing to do, but most people don't decide to do it because like they kind of just want to live out the whole 4 years here.
Yeah, as someone who's been here for 4 years, I would echo everything that she said there. I think that's very true. Okay, so the next question is also kind of following up to focus. How competitive is it to get into a focus program? I don't know, Vale, if you know anything about that from being in it, or if anyone has any input on that.
From what I remember, basically, like the application, if you really want to be in the focus, it should be easy for you to get in the focus because the questions are just kind of geared towards how much you want to be in it. I remember my focus program wasn't very competitive, but I know others are more competitive. That's kind of all the info I have on that.
Yeah, I probably pretty program dependent. I don't think they're super competitive overall, but you're right. It probably depends on kind of popularity, right? The medieval Renaissance focus, I don't think is as popular as maybe the more sciencey or pre-med kind of ones. Great. So another question, a good topic. Hopefully one of you has some good input on this one, is about the Durham food scene, right? So what kind of food is there in Durham? You know, does anyone have any favorite restaurants or eateries? Anyone go into Durham a lot, or like anytime recently they want to talk about? Emma, go for it.
I can go. So the really nice part about where East Campus is located, which is where all freshmen will live, is that there's a place called 9th Street, really, really close by. And it's just a street. There's a Harris Teeter. And then there's also just a bunch of restaurants. One of my favorite places that I went the night before I moved in, and my night after my first midterm with my friends, was called Blue Corn Cafe. And it's like a Latin American restaurant, and they have really good quesadillas. I would recommend going there. Another really popular place is Pompieri Pizza, and you get pizza. It's like really thin crust, and then you cut it with scissors. So it's really fun, and people like going there and taking pictures with it. But there's a lot of really fun, relatively cheap restaurants around campus. So those are two of my favorites.
So I go with my friends a lot to like downtown Durham. Just like, I don't know, how far is it? Maybe like a 5-7 minute car ride. But there's a ton of restaurants to go around. And also there is this place called South Point Mall that's really pretty. And there are really great places just to shop around and also to eat. And there's a Target nearby too, and I go to Target all the time. So
So I will say I personally don't go into Durham all that much. I have friends who love to do it though, right? So it is, as Vali said, it's very accessible. It's a very easy kind of, you know, car ride away, or, you know, you actually even have access to the buses. So you could take, you know, the Durham transportation buses into Durham if you wanted to. Yeah, so there's great options there, but there's also a lot of cool stuff on campus, which I'm sure we'll get to today in our talk with you all. The next question is a little bit, is more sort of academic again in nature. It's about kind of finding a major. So how easy is it to take different types of classes if you're unsure about what you want to major in? I don't know, Emma, if you have anything to talk about for Pratt. I know there's only sort of a few majors to pick from, but what was that like for you in engineering?
Yeah, so for Pratt, there is a bit more more of a rigid structure of like which classes you have to take when in order to graduate on time, but there was still time to figure it out. You don't technically have to declare your major in Pratt, or for anyone really, until your spring of your sophomore year. So for example, I came in as a biomedical engineer, and then after taking bio this year and just talking to different people on campus, I realized I don't like bio. And so I don't want to be a biomedical engineer anymore. And so now I'm doing mechanical engineering. So there's definitely time to kind of figure out what classes you want to take. And sometimes, like I said, my Writing 101 class is what made me realize what type of engineering I wanted to do, even though it was nothing related to engineering, like as a Writing 101 class. So there's definitely time to explore. It's nice to come in with an idea, but if you don't, then that's totally fine too.
Yeah. So I took a bunch of different classes my first year here. I think like over the 8 classes I took, I think there were like 6 different subject areas. But like the major kind of ends up finding you, because by the time like I declared like a week before we had to, but I realized I had taken already like 4 or 5 history classes. So you'll start to see trends in the classes you take, because like they're just ones you naturally find. Or like my friend is just now finding out that she has enough credits to be an evolutionary anthropology minor just because it's a class that she's liked and she's been taking classes in it. So just take classes in different things that you like. First semester, I had no idea what I was doing. I took poli-sci. I thought I was a poli-sci major, did not like it at all. Continued taking more classes, but you end up kind of just in the classes you do end up taking, you end up finding classes that you've taken more of that you've enjoyed more of.
Yeah, so I just kind of capping this one off. I know I wasn't really searching for a major. I knew I wanted to study psychology pretty early on, but I picked up, and I knew Spanish as well, but I picked up computer science kind of later on. So there's a lot of freedom to just kind of jump around and take different classes. I'm majoring in a social science, minoring in humanities, and like a STEM field. right? So it's very easy to kind of just embrace all of those things and try out classes in a lot of different areas. In terms of declaring your major, I know Veronica kind of mentioned it, like you don't have to declare your major until like spring break of your sophomore year. So you have so much time to shop around, try out new things, and figure that out before you declare, even for the first time. After that, you can change it. You can still kind of be flexible and modify it. It's just, if you change your major in your junior year, you're going to have a lot harder time trying to meet all those requirements at the last minute there. But it's very flexible. So next question is about dorms and dorm life. So it's very specific. So is doing laundry free? The short answer is no, it's not free, but it is fairly cheap, and it's like all the dorms or quads have laundry in them. But kind of branching from that question a little bit, do any of you want to talk about your experiences in dorms, freshman year dorms, or living as upperclassmen now?
I guess I think a lot of what a lot of prospective students have been worried about is the whole new complete random roommates for all freshmen coming in. So since I'm a freshman, I'm the first class that had this, and I found out after I got into Duke. So people were really freaked out, but I promise it has not been an issue at all. If anything, it has helped me meet so many more new people. Even if I'm not best friends with my roommate, but we are very good roommates, and like it just kind of expands my circle. And even though I'm not really friends with her friends, it just gives me more familiar faces that I know on campus, which is really nice. I've literally probably only heard of like one horror story, and not even that batch of people who set a lot of alarms. But that's you'll get with a lot of people. So oh well. Yeah, and I think that's about it for what I have to say.
So I'm actually on house council for my sophomore year dorm, and house council is kind of like this thing built into every single dorm that it's a group of people that will plan events for the entire dorm, cater food, maybe screen the basketball game or do movies. I know I did a spa night in our dorm one night close to midterms. So that's always really fun to be able to plan things like that, especially for the UNC versus Duke game. We got Chick-fil-A and just was putting the movie or the game on, and there was like 40 people in the common room, which was super nice. And that really fosters like communication and also communities, which is really good.
Yeah, living in the dorms, it's great. You're never quite if you want to do something, there's always something to do. There's someone wandering around. Someone's always bringing leftover food from like meetings that they had on campus, which is always great. Especially at the end of the school year when food points are like dwindling down. But yeah, I've met amazing people in the dorms I've lived in. It's a fun time. And also like being on West Campus. I'm on West Campus now. It's so nice being central to everything and just being walking distance to a lot of my classes, and not having to take the bus has been kind of a perk. But I am a history major, and the history department is on the east, so I am there quite a bit still. But just dorm life it's been a really nice experience. I never expected it to be the way it is, but like I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, just a last kind of logistical note on dorms. So pretty much all dorms are like full dorm style. So like big hallways, shared bathrooms for kind of men and women, some gender neutral bathrooms. Especially on East Campus, there's like only one dorm that's suite style, so everything else is dorm style. Almost entirely doubles with like some singles and some triples on East Campus. I don't really think there are triples on West Campus, but almost entirely doubles. There will be singles available if that's something that you want. So that is like, people will do that if they need like accommodations, or if they just like don't want to have to share the space with other people, they might preference that. But I know I really liked having a roommate. Even if it's sometimes inconvenient. Emma mentioned the alarms. My roommate was one of those freshman year. He would put his alarm under his pillow, and it would not go through the pillow. It would go out and like wake me up. But I liked living in a double, so it's I don't know. That's what most dorms are like. So the next question is one that I have very much been waiting for, but I'll let you guys kind of take this one first. Is how is the food? So does anyone want to talk about like their favorite places to eat on campus, or food life in general at Duke?
Okay, I can start. So freshmen specifically have Marketplace, which is like the freshman dining hall in East Campus. And Marketplace, even though sometimes you might get sick of the food, it's honestly like pretty good, especially compared to what I've heard from other people at different schools. But it's also really great because it's all freshmen for the most part. And so you'll go there after a long day of classes and you'll just see everyone you know. And I have sat in a Marketplace booth for like 2 hours just talking to my friends, procrastinating all the homework we have to do. Did it tonight while I should be studying for finals. So Marketplace is all really great for that. It definitely fosters community within the freshman class. We also have really cool themed nights where they'll do like really cool themes, like a huge Thanksgiving dinner or like a cruise themed dinner where there was like a fondue thing. It was crazy. And then tonight we have midnight breakfast. So everyone goes in at midnight and has pancakes and stuff while we're studying for finals. So I'm super excited for that.
Um, the food here is really good. I was scared about coming to college just because my mom makes really good food. But the food here is great. This new Latin American cuisine opened this year, Sazon, and they have plantains, which we only had like 2 or 3 times a year. When upstairs of the Broadhead Center, they have like this cuisine that switches every couple weeks, and sometimes we'd have plantains there, but now like eat plantains every day now, which is like my favorite like to go snack. But yeah, food is really nice on campus. I've kind of cycled into eating like the same 4 things, which is not the best, but they're good 4 things, so I'm not too mad about it.
I guess my take on so there really aren't words to describe food on Duke's campus. Overall, it's fantastic, right? Like it is so good. If you've been to campus, you've been to West Union, to the Broadhead Center, you know how crazy of the building is just nuts. Like our main eating area, there are like 13 different places you can eat, all different kind of food. Marketplace on East Campus is great because it's like a community building tool, right? You know everyone's going to eat there. I think West Union also on West Campus is great for that too, because you can go to dinner and get like really good food, one, on your meal plan, two, like without having to decide like what you and all your friends want to eat, right? You don't have to all agree on sushi or all agree on pizza or whatever. You can all go get completely different things and still sit together on campus on the meal plan. It's just like very accessible and easy. So food is so good. Wow. Yeah. So next question is so two more questions about kind of dorm life, which I can just take pretty easily, and then one that might be a little contentious. So the first one is about kind of during move-in, living in the dorm. So you're never like required to be in your dorm. I know some schools, especially like city schools, will have like curfews or things, but like if your family's in town and has a hotel or something, you can always go to stay with them. You can stay in friends' rooms or anything like that. So there are no regulations about having to be in your dorm at any given time, really. And then the second is, how difficult is it to get a single dorm? I think it's easy. I think most people don't really want singles. The friends that I know who got them like did want them. So I think it's fairly easy. I don't think people are like scrambling over each other to live without a roommate, especially in their first year. On West Campus, it can be a little bit more difficult because I think once you live with a roommate for long enough, you kind of get to the point where you maybe want to have your own space again. But on East Campus, it's definitely not a problem. So now arriving at the big question about dorms is which is the best East Campus dorm in your opinion? So just to put out my opinion there first, so I lived in Bassett on East Campus for 2 years, and it is a hot take that Bassett is the best dorm on campus, because it is like the last one to be renovated, so it is not exactly in the best of shape right now. It's still really great, I will say. It's an awesome place, but I loved being there for 2 years because it's one of the smaller dorms. It's very kind of intimate. People always would, at least my year, like the 2 years I was there, once living there, once as an RA, would just like sit out in the halls and just talk, right? Hang out in the common room. The faculty and residents' family is there, is really amazing. So it was a great like close community that I know some of the bigger dorms don't really have. I don't know how you guys feel about the best East Campus dorm.
I'm in Bell Tower, which is one of the newer dorms, and I love it there. I think it's a great. I'm really close with all the girls on my hall, even though people say that might not have as good of a community in a big dorm, but I'm really close with the girls on my floor. The new mega dorm is Trinity, which is also where all my friends live, which is where I am right now, where they have full-size beds, which is pretty cool too. But I think honestly, whatever dorm you get, you will end up finding people you really like, and you'll love it for various reasons.
So I was actually also in Bell Tower my freshman year, but I did not agree with you. I didn't have like the best community in Bell, so I actually went to Pegram like all the time. I had a ton of friends in there, and I think Pegram's the best dorm. It's on main quad, so it's super easy to get to all your friends. It doesn't take 7 minutes to walk to Marketplace, and also it just recently got renovated, so it looks beautiful. The kitchen is so big. My friends used to make hot pot in it every Friday. It was so nice. So Pegram.
Yeah, I lived in Randolph first year, and the rooms are like the size of shoe boxes, but that creates like a great community because everyone just doesn't want to be in their room, so they go into the common room. We had like every Sunday night, we would like make bread together and we'd eat it at like midnight before the next day's classes. And like the backyard area where like Randolph, Bell Tower, and I guess now Trinity or Megadorm is, it's just a nice like green space to like lay down over there. And our bench was like the best our year.
Yeah, awesome. So I find that everyone finds a dorm where they feel like they kind of belong. I know I personally in Bassett had a lot of friends who were in Epworth, which is not even a dorm anymore. But like people have friend groups that are like split between dorms. Sometimes it's just within one dorm, but all the dorms are like nice and unique and good in their own way, I find. So the next question, again, kind of back to academics, is a little more about research. So it's about kind of researching the triangle and like collaborating with any organizations or people in the triangle area. I don't know if any of you kind of do research or have any research experiences to talk about, especially if they relate to Durham at all. Okay, I can jump in with my own stuff. So I don't know if I can necessarily directly answer whether being in the triangle helps with research opportunities, but personally, I've worked in a lab now, a psychology lab. This is like my 3rd year there. I applied as a sophomore and have been there ever since. And actually was one of the like honor students in the lab this year writing a thesis, which I just wrapped up last week, which is kind of crazy. Research at Duke is big, right? People, I think it's something like 50% or more of students do some sort of research during their time here, which is really, I think, everyone who wants to do research because there are so many opportunities. Personally, I don't know of a ton of people who go out into the triangle to do research as much as like there are so many opportunities here at Duke and with like Duke's broader organizations that there's no real need to go out and seek third-party opportunities, right? If you want to do medical research in the Triangle area, Duke University Medical Center is like the place to be for that. And I have friends who do research there. I have friends who volunteer and shadow there as like pre-med sort of stuff. I know when I was a sophomore, and this always kind of boggles my mind, when I was a sophomore as an RA, there was a freshman in my dorm who was doing like cancer research in the Duke Hospital in her first semester here, right? Like there are kind of opportunities abound to find research opportunities in whatever field you want, whether it's with a lab, whether it's with a project or a specific professor. There's so much going on, and that does extend to the triangle. I don't personally know people who really kind of go out that far because there's so much to do and to access here at Duke. Yeah, good question. So the next question is again about focus. So for those of you who didn't choose focus, why not? And I'll talk about that experience. So I know Valley did focus. Do either of you have a perspective on not being in focus?
Yeah, so for me, although it definitely is possible to do focus if you're in Pratt, it is a little bit harder just because there are some classes as a freshman engineer that you're expected to take, like math, chem, physics, and so focus does take up some of those classes. So that's why I didn't want to do it. Just I personally didn't think I would be able to handle that many things going on at once, but people definitely do if you are interested in doing it. You just have to work out, like you'll take your humanities classes earlier in your Duke career, whereas I will be taking them like next year.
I think if like I remember, I think the reason I didn't do focus is just because I had I really just didn't know what I wanted to do at Duke. And so focus on like your first semester, your first year, and it's 2 classes you would take. And I didn't want to like commit to 2 classes in one subject area if like it wasn't something that I was going to want to go into. So I just ended up taking a bunch of different classes rather than going into a focus. But everyone who has done a focus, even if they're not doing anything within that focus's like academic area anymore, like they still really enjoyed their experiences. But for me, I was so undecided about what I wanted to do here that I wanted to spend part of that first semester just trying out a bunch of different classes.
Yeah, just briefly to wrap this up, I think mine is very similar to Veronica. I didn't find one that worked for me, right? There wasn't a focus program that really like inspired me to try it out, and so I didn't think it would be worth it. And I think that was probably the right decision. You know, I had friends in focus, out of focus, whatever. I didn't feel like I was missing out because I wasn't taking their classes, because it wasn't something that really like, you know, made me passionate about learning it. So I was very happy to be kind of off doing my own thing and exploring what I wanted to do later on. So the next topic to talk about would be like living groups and stuff. So after your first year living on East Campus, everyone kind of moves to West Campus. So does anyone want to talk about kind of their process with that, right? The recruitment process, or, you know, finding a group, or you know, not finding a group, or the experience of going through recruitment, moving on to West Campus?
So like I said before, I'm in a sorority, so I went through recruitment. At Duke, it is during the spring semester, not during the fall semester, like a lot of other colleges. I think it works really well because you can kind of establish a community outside of an organization and then join one after you've kind of settled into the freshman year college experience. I personally think recruitment is like very intense. It's a lot of time that you're putting into it, at least for sorority. It's like 4 full days, and I remember not doing a lot of homework during those days. But I overall think it was a good idea for me. I just think that if you want to do something like that, you should do it for you instead of just like trying to do something that all your friends are doing.
Yeah, so I am in an SLG, and I'm like an introverted person. So it was a rough process. My friend actually dragged me out of bed like for the second open house to like begin the whole process. And like I would be tired after like the event just because there was just so much talking and things like that. But after like I think for SLGs it's like 3 weeks after going through it all and meeting all these amazing people. I love my roommate. I love everyone that's in the group. So it's not something that's for everyone, definitely. Some people like it's a lot. So like if don't feel like you're forced to do it, because during rush season you will feel like everyone is going to rush events and like the whole campus chatters about rush. I've enjoyed my experience so far, but like if it weren't for like my friend, I wouldn't have done it on my like own like will. But I love my SLG and like everyone that's in it.
So I'm also in a sorority, so I just went through the rush process. I think I have similar experience. It is a lot, but I'm really enjoying it now. But I think the nice part about Duke is that even though there is Greek life and there are SLGs, there's also just a lot else going on. So if Greek life or SLGs doesn't seem like the thing for you, there's so much else you can get involved in. You'll still have a social life. You'll still have things to go to. And that I think is really unique about Duke, just because there's so much going on.
Yeah, I mean, my take on the whole thing. So I mentioned earlier, I'm in Greek life. I'm in a fraternity, and I've been in one since freshman year. I actually kind of stumbled into it. So I rushed SLGs, didn't end up actually getting into one, and ended up finding a group that worked for me here. But speaking from my experiences as an RA and watching, 100 something people that I was responsible for kind of going through the process, the biggest thing I've found for like being successful in finding a group at Duke is, kind of what Vali said, right? Finding the group that works for you, right? Not finding the group that you like think you're expected to join, or that you think is like higher status, or what, whatever that even means. Not doing the one that like your friends told you is the best, or that kind of thing. It's finding a place where you belong. And for some people that's a fraternity, a sorority, a selective living group. For some people that's, with their 5 close friends living in a block on West Campus. and kind of keeping that community together still in independent housing. But just finding the group that really works for you and that clicks best for you is, I think, has been the kind of the key to success in finding a group here at Duke. So there's a question that I can kind of tackle pretty quickly. So it's about internship and job opportunities in the Duke Hospital for undergrads. So none of us are pre-med, but having been here for 4 years, I've run into a lot of pre-meds. Pre-med is kind of a big thing at Duke. So internships and jobs at the hospital are very available to undergrads, right, period. I know people, like I said, who do like volunteering opportunities. It's a big thing to go and do volunteering in like the VA hospital. People will go and do like, I know people who do volunteering in like geriatrics, so they'll go and kind of deal with older people. So there's a ton there. I know people who do research, both paid and unpaid in the hospital system. They'll kind of travel around and present that and do a lot of cool like wet bench kind of stuff, like really kind of on the ground research in medicine. I don't know that there are a ton of like jobs in the hospital because it's like actually like a company, right? It's people they employ are full adults who work there full time, but there's a ton of access to internships, shadowing, and volunteering opportunities in that area. Branching out from that kind of more to jobs broadly. So so the question is, apart from being an RA or similar jobs, what kind of job opportunities are on campus, and how does that incorporate with your schedules? I don't know if any of you have on-campus jobs. I want to talk about that.
So I don't personally have a job, but one of my best friends does. She works like a couple different ones that help her, like that she got through her work study, which has been really nice for her. So one of them, she works at the Ruby, which is our arts facilities on campus. And she also does research, paid research. So that has been nice for her because she's into art. So she gets to be at the arts facilities and she gets to do research related to biomedical engineering, which is really cool. In regards to incorporating with your schedule, for her, especially if you get a job where you're sitting at a desk, she used that time to get her work done too. So I think a lot of people, if you want to get a job, it's feasible to incorporate into your schedule.
I have a job on campus. My freshman year, I started working at the ticket box office, which is like very known for being a nice job where you can do your homework at the information desk. People come in and ask you questions, or you just are answering phones and getting people who want to buy tickets to different events. This year, I'm working in Duke Engage for their communications and marketing department. So it's a lot less of the doing your own work and more just like creating marketing campaigns for each of the programs that they're trying to like make available to the students. I work 10 hours a week, which I find feasible with my schedule, but you can negotiate how many hours you want to work or can work with your employers. And for the most part, everybody's really flexible and willing to work with your schedule and just wants to make sure that you're doing an okay job. I know my boss on multiple occasions has been like, it's finals week, don't come to work, it doesn't matter. So that's super nice. And they're very like accommodating to your needs.
Yeah, I'm also on work study. I've been working at the admissions office for 2 years now, which is super cool because my boss is actually the man who admitted me into Duke. So that's super cool, like seeing everything go full circle. And like I've been like working behind the scenes at Blue Devil Days, which was super chaotic but super fun, seeing all the new first years. And that's a job I do mostly remotely, so I can be anywhere on campus, kind of like matching students or making sure different forms are in. And so because it's remote, it's a little more flexible for me that if it's midnight and I'm just done doing my homework, I can also do things for work. I go into the office sometimes, but it's really nice having that job. It ranges from like 3 hours, so when we're super busy, like 12 hours a week. But it's been a nice experience, and it doesn't feel like work too much, especially like when I'm meeting so many people and talking to so many people.
Yeah, so to talk about a friend's experience, actually, before even my own, I had a friend who in his senior year actually like took an internship in Durham and would like go work for a publisher because he had, some free time to go make some money out in the city. So like it is easy to make it work with your schedule. Personally, this year, actually my senior year, which is when you're supposed to take it easy, I actually sort of have like 3 jobs at any given time. So the first, I actually work for Duke students. I'm actually an editor on the team, so I get paid for doing that, which is really cool. I also work as a paid TA, teaching assistant for Psych 101, and that's been a lot of fun for me too, right, as a psych major. And I'm working on a project in the law school where I'm like a paid research assistant for them. So in any given week, I'm working, up to, I'd say, about 20 hours a week, potentially at some weeks. It is very feasible. It's very possible. I have friends who work that much, who work less. I have friends who don't work. I have friends who work more than that. So it's working and being involved in that way is definitely very possible. And people do a lot outside of the classroom, jobs, extracurriculars, and everything else. So it's very, very easy. So the next question is about weather. So I don't know if any of you want to talk about adjusting to the weather in the South or how it might be different from where you're from, Veronica.
Yeah, so I'm from Vegas, which is a desert. After I came to Duke, Vegas went like 3 months without rain. So like that's kind of the atmosphere I'm used to. So coming to Duke was a lot. I remember moving in, I was just constantly sweating. It rains like once a week, which some people don't seem as a lot, but it's really weird. But like the trees outside are super nice. So it was an adjustment period. The best purchase I made were like $20 rain boots I got from Target, just because shoes can get messed up when like it just downpours sometimes. But like I'm not the biggest fan of like all the humidity here, but it is super nice just being in this. Like the past few weeks have been beautiful. Like been in like the 70s, like high 60s. So the weather's been nice. But yeah, coming from the West Coast, coming from like where it doesn't rain and it's like 100 degrees in the summer, it was kind of a shift, and I'm still slowly adjusting. Also, the pollen here is quite a mess, which I didn't know you could see pollen before I came to Duke, which was like a big, like everything was yellow, but like it's been a good time, even though the weather kind of is on and off.
So I have the opposite experience. I'm from Buffalo, New York, where it's cold and snowing all the time. I literally think it's snowing today or something like that, I heard. So for me, I was very excited to come to the South and have warmer weather. Not having it be gray all the time has been really nice for me. I'm just a lot happier when it's sunny out, and it's just a lot more sunny here. So that's been really great for me.
I'm from Miami, so I'm used to very, very hot weather all the time. I came here, it was the first time I experienced fall. It was my favorite thing in the entire world. Then I experienced winter, and that was a whole nother thing. I was so cold. Got that. Like I bought coats for the first time. It was a great experience. The pollen is also a lot. I didn't realize I had allergies until I came here because pollen's like not that big of a deal in Miami. And my umbrella just broke like a week ago because there was like a lot of wind, so it inverted and won't go back. But I love it here. It's a really great, like you get all 4 seasons, which is so amazing. It's not always summer, and I love it.
Yeah, so the next question is actually, they didn't know it was related to weather, but it really is, and it's about tenting for the UNC games. So I don't know if anyone wants to talk about their experience tenting.
Yeah, so tenting was a thing that I heard about before I came to Duke, but didn't really believe anyone actually did it till I saw it. And then when I did it myself, so for tenting for the Duke UNC game, there's like a couple different stages. There's black tenting, which is a lot of weeks, a lot of people in the tent. I did white tenting, which is less of a commitment. For me, it's definitely something you have to incorporate into your schedule. You do have to take time out of your day to either sleep in a tent or stay in the tent to do work or when you're supposed to be working. But for me, I was able to still get work done. They have a library tent, which was like my favorite place because I actually got so much work done there. But overall, it was a really great experience. The Duke UNC game, unfortunately, did not go in our favor this time, but I still had a great time, and I made a huge community with just like the people in my tent and people in other tents.
Yeah, so I've actually tented twice now. So I tented this year and last year, and both times it's been with kind of a group of friends that was like some of my friends and some of like their friends or like mutual friends that we had. And tenting is such a weird kind of cult phenomenon that we have at Duke. it's one of those things that like you never think you'll do it until you get here, or you think it's crazy that it even happens, and then you just get kind of sucked into it and kind of engage with it. Like the whole kind of campus comes alive when tenting is going on. It's not easy, as Emma said, but it's so much fun. I have friends who are like diehard fans and like really fight to be like tent number one. And I have friends who like their first game that they ever went to, a first basketball game, was actually the UNC game, because they just like decided to tent, even though they're not really big sports fans. So it's a great time overall, and kind of a cool thing you get to do that other schools don't really get to experience. And it's a fun thing to talk about. People who like, when I do like job interviews and stuff, like people are always so confused that that's something that I do. But it's a great thing to have. It's a great kind of cool thing to have on the side. Great. So the next question, we kind of talked about it a little bit, kind of our experiences with it, but I guess we maybe never explained actually how the rush process works. Does anyone want to talk about like how rush literally works, like when it happens, like what it looks like, and kind of what the options are?
So there is Greek life and then SLGs, which is selective living groups. I'm not sure about the SLG rush process. I'm sure I can let somebody else do this one. But for Greek life, for sororities, it's 2 weekends, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, one weekend, and then Saturday, Sunday, the other weekend. The first 2 days is dedicated to going to all 10 sororities, and then you slowly go to less and less until you end in round 4, and you have either 1 or 2, and then you get a bid from one sorority. So it's like a 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. process every single day. It's can be tiring, but you meet a lot of people during all of the rounds, and it's a good experience to go to every single sorority.
Yeah, so SLG and Greek, fraternity recruitment are similar to each other. It's basically just, a few weeks with like 2 or 3 rounds of just events after events after events of, going to dinner kind of things, going to games, socializing, like parties, things like that. Just, it's all, I mean, Veronica talked about it being a very like extroverted process. It's all just like talking to people and like hanging out during that time. It can be very, very busy and hectic for people, but it's, someone else kind of mentioned it. It's like campus sort of centers around rush for like some period of time as it's all going on. It's a very hectic time, but there is always time to find, to study and actually do other things and be real people during the recruitment process as well. So it's getting close to 8 o'clock, so I think it's probably time to wrap up. One last thing for each of us to go through as decision day is coming up for the class of 2023 for admitted students out there. What final advice or things would you say to the students out there who are, or the, I guess, future students out there who are trying to decide if Duke is the right place for them? What do you think you would want them to hear? What would you have wanted to hear when making your decision?
I would say just like in general, not necessarily for Duke specifically, but just keeping in mind that another person's success does not indicate your own failure is extremely important. Because like you can see a lot of people doing crazy, amazing things and think, oh, well, I'm not doing that. I must be doing something wrong. And that is not the case. I just think that's something that's really important to keep in mind while you're trying to figure out where you want to go, or like when you're there, what you're doing and what you're getting involved in.
Yeah, honestly, when it came to pick Duke, I still wasn't sure about picking Duke. But like, just go with your heart. Don't think too much about the name, but like, if you did have the opportunity to visit where you felt most at home, and just, yeah, it's hard because like, even like after I think I picked Duke like the day before the deadline was, and it's after you kind of see that you truly do fit in that environment and you're happy with your choice. But like, just try to like that gut feeling kind of maybe that you might have about a certain school is what hopefully you should follow on. I met a friend who goes to a different school, and I don't know, he had like a specific term for the specific way he felt about the school that he ended up choosing. And so like, just yeah, just try to go with your heart. If you want, flip a coin, and if you're happy with the result, then like that's it. And if you're not, maybe like try to think about like what you're really looking for in a school. But yay, go to Duke.
I guess I was early decision, so I knew I wanted to go, so I didn't really have to pick. But I think, again, just do what you want, but do what like you think, where you think you'll be happiest. You are going to be there for 4 years, living there for 4 years, so wherever you'll be happiest. I choosing to apply early to Duke, it's the best decision I've made. I've had the best first year here. I'm very sad it's over. Even on my like most stressed out days, like when I have all these things going on, I'm still incredibly happy to be here, which I think says a lot about the school. That even when I'm stressed out, there's nowhere else I'd rather be. So that's just my 2 cents about Duke.
Yeah, and I think they've said the best things that I could have come up with. But as you're making your decision, just go with what feels right for you. Find the place that you can see spending 4 years at, and the place that might, that hopefully will make you want to come back and visit after that. As Emma said, right, Duke is not a perfect place. No school is, especially when you're choosing between like really academically rigorous schools. I'm obviously biased, and I would want you to come to Duke, but the people at Duke are very supportive and will help you through all of the roller coasters of life that kind of come up, and that's been one of the kind of hallmarks of my experience. So, and I really think there's a place here for everyone, but make the decision that's right for you. Don't do what other people tell you you're supposed to do, or the name that you think is going to sound the best. Go with the place that feels like home and feels like it could really be your home. So thanks for stopping by tonight, guys. Hopefully this was helpful for you. I know we got to a number of your questions. I'm sure there were questions out there that we didn't quite get to. If any of you have other questions, the Duke Students accounts are always here to help you. You can feel free to DM us on any of our platforms, or check us out for some more information on what it's like to really be a student here at Duke. And yeah, thanks for coming by. Hopefully this was helpful for you, and good luck with your decisions.